Morning, everyone. Today we got Cheryl Rost here with First American Home Warranty.
Morning.
Yep, just glad to have her here this morning. Her and her company offer a tremendous product, and in today's market, it's super beneficial to have one of these in your transaction where buyers are likely, having to waive inspections to get into a property. So this for sure can be a shelter of liability to you as an agent representing a buyer.
Because it's not going to go
Hang
any
on, we're
government.
going to mute them for a second. Yeah, again, this is a good shelter of liability for you as an agent so that the buyers have some level of protection, for that first year or two in their home. With that being the case, I'm going to let Cheryl take over and give us a presentation here, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Well, thanks for having me. I'm really excited about this opportunity. So I'd like to start off actually by quickly just a little story about, I think it was last summer, like during the pandemic, there was a homeowner, went to his basement, saw that his water heater was leaking, called a plumber. Plumber wanted $3,000 to replace it. This guy was in the restaurant industry, and you know how they've been hit by the pandemic. So he was distraught because he didn't have any money to replace the water heater. Luckily, he reached out to his agent who said, don't you remember the sellers gave you a warranty when you purchased the property? So First American went in and replaced the water heater, and obviously he was a happy camper because without that, who knows how long he and his family would have had to go without hot water. So that's the value of a home warranty, especially in today's environment where everybody's coming to the table with, every penny they have paying way above ask. Something breaks in that first year, their budget is already stretched to the limit, and there's no money left to cover those items like that. So, so that water heater was $3,000. It's important to understand that a lot of companies have dollar limits on what they'll pay. I mean, there's some companies out there that would have given him no more than $500 for that water heater. First American does not have a dollar limit on water heaters, air conditioners. The only time we limit heating is if it's a geothermal system or a boiler. So anything that's, a water system, a boiler, that sort of thing. A lot of times when agents look at warranties, they look at the back that says it covers this, 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 and this, right? And they're going, oh, well, this covers all these things. This is what I'm going to use. It's not just what the company covers, it's the degree to what they cover each of those items. So it's important to understand the limits of liability on those things. There are some companies who don't cover rust out. There are some companies who don't cover issues with sediment. A lot of times those water heaters, sediment builds up, takes out the element, or rusts out the bottom. So it's really important to understand the coverage really in more detail than just looking at those bullet statements as far as what systems and appliances it covers. First American covers unknown pre-existing conditions, and I'm glad you brought up the point about people waiving inspections. And I've had agents say to me, we're getting a home warranty in place of a home inspection. And I know that you guys know it's not in place of a home inspection, because the home inspection, number one, is going to cover things that a warranty would never cover, differential shifting in a basement, issues with windows, doors, decks, those sorts of things would never be covered by a home warranty regardless. And if there's something that a warranty or that an inspection would have picked up, if there's visual evidence that there's an issue, or if you turn it on and you're hearing noises and it's not working, that's something that a home warranty isn't going to cover because it's a known pre-existing condition, or could have been known. So it's important to understand that it's not necessarily going to cover the things that a home inspection would have picked up. The only time that we ask for a home inspection report is if our technician goes out there, and usually it would be if it's something very early on into coverage. If our contractor goes out and says, this was pre-existing, then my first question is to the contractor, and the question is, would this have been discovered by a visual inspection or a simple mechanical test? And if he says no, then it's covered as an unknown pre-existing condition. Some companies don't cover any pre-existing, whether it's known or unknown. If he says yes, it would have been detected, then my next question is to the agent, do we have a home inspection report? So that's the only time that we look for that. First American has a number of different plans. May I share my screen, Brooks?
Yeah, absolutely. You should have the ability to do that on your end.
Okay, so there we go. So the contract, let me go back to the very back. Okay, so again, here are the bullet statements that tells you basically what's covered inside the contract. It gives you details under each category. And it's actually very easy to read for a layperson. It's not intended to be full of, small print and language that you can't understand. So the basic plan, $445 for a single family detached home, $390 for condo, townhome, and mobile. So that would cover all of these items, including rekey, and that's in our basic plan. The seller, for all plans, gets this complimentary seller's coverage at no additional cost. So if the seller wants to cover themselves during the listing period, they can do so for an additional $70 for these 3 optional items. If they don't want that, they automatically get the rest of the coverage at no additional cost. If the buyer wants coverage for washer, dryer, kitchen, refrigerator, because those 3 appliances are not included in the basic plan, they can bump up to the value plan. Then you take a step further to the Eagle Premier, and here's where it gets a little confusing because the Eagle Premier also adds the first class upgrade. The first class upgrade covers things like haul-away fees, permit fees, free on recapture and disposal, mismatched systems, improper installations, code violations. So I can tell you personally where it saved me money. I had my springs on my garage door replaced twice. So the garage door opener is covered under the basic, but springs are not. That's part of the first class upgrade. I've had 3 appliances replaced. Hallway fees were covered for all of those. I've had water heater replaced twice. Hallway fee was covered, and because my municipality requires an expansion tank as part of code when you're installing a water heater, that expansion tank was covered under the code provision of the first class upgrade. So those are some places where it's actually saved me personally some money. So it's a great option. We've added, you can see down here we have a first class plus and a plumbing plus. So these are new features for us, and I will go back to, okay, so the first class plus, you have to have the first class upgrade, but then add on the first class plus, which is going to increase the aggregate limit for a geothermal system or a water source heating system from $1,500 to $2,500. It's also going to give up to $1,250 for modification, which is huge, because if we're replacing an entire system, heating, air conditioning, water heater, very oftentimes there are out-of-pocket costs in the form of mostly in modifications. So if they have to modify plumbing lines, gas lines, electrical lines, ductwork, whatever it might be, this is, or maybe they need a new pad outside because the condensing unit is larger, things like that. So it's going to give them up to $1,250 worth of coverage for those non-covered costs. And that is, it doesn't have to be used on one claim. So if they used part of it on one claim, the remainder then can be used on a second or a third claim. The Plumbing Plus adds coverage for expansion tanks. So if it's just the expansion tank that goes bad, or if we're replacing a water heater and the municipality doesn't require it, it's going to cover the expansion tank. It also covers up to $250 to install ground level clean out and $250 to clear stoppages caused by roots. Concrete encased plumbing is typically limited to $500. This will give you $1,500 worth of coverage for concrete encased, typically it's plumbing that we see, but it could be, gas lines, whatever. And then it gives you up to $1,000 for external pipe leak coverage. I would mention that my homeowner's insurance, which is Donegal, gives me $15,000 worth of coverage for about, $20, $30 a year. So that obviously is a better option than this, but the coverage is still there and it's available if someone's interested. So when I mentioned earlier, when you go under coverage, so for heating system, obviously the bullet point on the back says heating. This tells you exactly what is covered. So a homeowner's insurance policy is a policy of exclusion where they say we cover everything except. A home warranty contract is a contract of inclusion where it says, this is what we cover. So we're going to give examples of things that are not covered, but just because it doesn't say it's not covered doesn't mean that it is. So these are the items, the little bullet points that are covered, and you can see under each category it tells you exactly what's covered. So it really is fairly easy to read the contract, even though there's a lot to read. What else? Oh, and so the dollar limits are if we have a dollar limit on a particular item, like well pump is limited to $1,500. We've taken all of those dollar limits and also put them in a list here on page 13. So it's very clear when you're looking at this exactly what the dollar limits are. For sellers, heating and air conditioning coverage, some people look at that and get a little confused and think that that's for everything. That's only for the seller. The buyer does not have that limitation. The only time they have a limitation on heating is if it's a system that utilizes steam, heated water, or glycol. So I think that's most of it. When the warranty is ordered, there's no money due until closing. Coverage begins for the buyer day of close. We cover the buyer 365 days, regardless of how long we've covered that seller. So I think that's coverage in a nutshell. I hope I didn't overwhelm you. That's a lot of information. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, a couple other things I wanted to share. So we do offer, that's not what I wanted, some complimentary marketing materials. So these are items that you can go onto our website, you can download these, and I took the liberty of pulling your stuff, Brooks, and mocking one up for you. So you can add, obviously, your picture, your contact information, your logo, and we will print up to 25 of each of these items per month and ship them to you at no cost. So it really is a great way to keep in touch with your sphere without spending a penny. So that's a moving checklist. This is we have just listed and just listed and just sold postcards. And Kong, does this look familiar to you? Tristan?
Just sold it. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it was pending. Awesome. The home maintenance guide, again, all of these are customizable. This is a nice 10-page document that people like to give to their buyers at closing. And again, all of these are free of charge. Couple of things about First American that I think is a little bit different or unique to First American is I have an assistant service provider. So if you call me and you have an issue, and please, if you ever have an issue with a claim, please reach out to me immediately so I can make sure that we get it on track. So if you reach out to me, I will then send this to my service provider, who it works for me and 2 other area managers. She takes ownership of the claim, reaches out to the homeowner, gives the homeowner all of her contact information, and then she will keep up on that claim until it's finalized. She'll be updating the homeowner, and the homeowner only has one person to speak to. They don't have to call an 800 number and explain the situation time and time and time again. She's the one who has ownership, and she is the only one that they need to work with to get that claim resolved. So I think that's a little, unique to First American. So that's pretty much it. Let me stop my screen share. Okay.
Now, Cheryl,
the item that you mentioned, Cheryl, is huge. We have so many times you're talking to many different people to try to get something resolved, and if you have that contact, it helps immensely.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Saves the customers from getting so frustrated and calling an 800 number and sitting on hold for 20, 30 minutes.
for sure. Cheryl, now I've dealt with you in the past, and it's super easy to order these home warranties, and you provide amazing level of service. Can you explain to them, what are the steps, to go through and order one of these warranties through you?
Okay, so there's a couple of ways you can order. We have an 800 number that you can call. Not my favorite way. The best way really would be to set up an online account, and that's where you would also have access to those customizable marketing materials. Once you set up that account, when you place the order, the system will automatically send you a confirmation. You can also, while you're in there, send confirmations to anyone you want. If the closing information is in there and we have the closing officer's email address, the system will automatically send one to them. If you put the other agent's information, whether it be a buyer or seller's agent, the system will automatically send them a confirmation, and then you can add any other emails you want to send it out. So your complimentary seller's coverage starts the day that the warranty is ordered, no money due until closing, and then the buyer's coverage starts day of close. We allow 30 days to make payment. So during that 30 days, the buyer can still place claims, but they can't yet set up an online account. But once that's set up, they can also set up an online account, go in and place claims, follow the claim, pay service fees, obviously, see their coverage. So that's a great benefit for the buyer as well. The other way is you can always reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to place orders for you as well.
Hey, Cheryl, when you have a buyer and they settle in their home, is there a time period, if they don't have a warranty at time of settlement, do they have a time period that they can add that warranty after the fact?
They do. They can actually order the real estate product up to 60 days after close. Once it goes beyond that time, we do have other options available as well, but this product that I was just talking about is available up to 60 days after closing.
Is there a network of, is there a network of contractors that you require that an insured uses, or can they choose their own contractor?
No, we require that they use ours. And really for a homeowner, it's a lot easier because they don't have to, first off, they don't have to pay up front. When I know there's some companies who allow you to choose your own contractor, there are pros and cons to that. One of them is they have to pay up front for whatever the cost of that is out of pocket and then wait to get reimbursed. When you have a company who has in-network contractors, they bill us directly, so the homeowner doesn't have to worry about any of that. Like the gentleman that I was talking about with that water heater, even if he could have chosen his own contractor, he wouldn't have had that $3,000 to pay up front in order to get it, with his own contractor. So there are pros and cons to that, but the short answer is yes, we have a network that that you're required to use. There are times because we have a limited number of contractors, there are times when we do allow a homeowner to go out and use their own contractor if we don't have a contractor who can service in a timely manner.
Cheryl, Sherry's asking for I guess a link to your actual warranty
To send the clients.
to send the clients, the overview of it.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I can send that out to you. And I'm glad you mentioned that too, because there's one thing I forgot to mention. I do have a virtual business card that you can actually download to your home screen. And not only can you use that you can tap to call me, text me, email me, but there's also a PDF version of our contract, both in English and Spanish, and a couple of videos and whatever on that app. So with a couple taps, you can shoot that right off to your client, that virtual business card. But I'll send you a PDF of the contract. And I'll also send you a link to the virtual business card if you're interested in downloading that.
Any other questions for Cheryl while we have her?
Hey, Brooksy, I have a few things to talk about.
Yeah, go ahead, Seth.
What is that?
Hey, Cheryl. Two things. One, I know that whenever I need you, which is rare, you are always Johnny on the spot to help anybody.
Oh.
So I just want to point that out to the folks, the Zoom meeting. But maybe you want to talk about what the First American company does and how it has so many different affiliates nationwide for us.
So First American Home Warranty is owned by First American Financial for First American Corporation. So we are actually, even though we're owned by the same parent company as First American Title, which I'm sure you're very familiar with, we are autonomous companies. So there's no interaction, as we don't share any databases, we don't share any processes. We're all completely autonomous companies. So I don't have a, I don't have a great handle on everything that First American offers, but it's a lot. And I spent actually 12 years in Title back in the 70s, 80s. but we didn't underwrite for First American.
I think I see Morgan down there as a question. Go ahead.
Does this cover any like E&O insurance if there's a claim or anything like that?
It doesn't.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions? Guys, to me, the big thing is the dollar limits. A lot of these other companies have very low dollar limitations in place that you may not be aware of when you're giving out these products and passing them along to your buyers. They might also pay you an incentive, but the problem is these dollar limits when in the instance that the buyer has to pay for the home warranty, it's $600 and then they have to pay a deductible. And let's say the refrigerator goes out, and I know specifically one of these companies has a dollar limitation in place of $1,000, which doesn't go a long way for a refrigerator these days anyway. But at that point, now they've paid $700 to get $1,000 and they're only being really reimbursed $300. So to me, these limitations are huge, and that's one of the huge benefits of First American.
Yeah, our limit actually is $3,500 per appliance, which I think is the highest in the industry. They've just replaced my dishwasher, $1,200 dishwasher. They replaced my wall oven, $1,700 wall oven, and I have an $1,800 repair bill on my refrigerator if the evap coil ever comes in. It's been since September, so we're still waiting for that. You got to love the pandemic, right? The other thing, and I think I know the company you're referring to, make sure that you're aware that that particular company does prorate based on age. So even though they have a dollar limit on heating and air conditioning, if that system is beyond its life expectancy, depending on the age, you're not getting $2,250, you may not get anything. So it's important to understand that they do prorate based on age. First American does not. So if that heating system or air conditioning system or whatever it is goes out, we're giving them a brand new system, and we're giving them a 13 SEER system on a straight cool and 14 on the heat pump, because those are the federal mandates right now. So even if we pull out a 10 SEER unit, we're putting in a 13 or a 14 to meet those mandates. And there's no dollar limit on a forced hot air system, and there's no dollar limit on AC. So that's huge, especially when you're talking, what, a $6,000, $7,000 unit. That's huge. So it makes it does make a big difference.
Cheryl, question for you on that. If somebody wants to go with maybe a oversized system, is there a way to do that? Are you guys willing to pay for, what SEER system you talked about, and then the buyer makes up the difference?
So we always offer the option to cash out, whether it's replacing an appliance or replacing a system. When you're replacing an appliance, and understand that those cash outs are always based on First American's cost. So even like when they replace my dishwasher, if I go on Lowe's website, it's a $1,200 dishwasher. The cash out was a little less than $900, so that's the discount warranty gets, because we're nationwide, and obviously we replace a lot of systems and appliances. So it's not too bad when you're looking at appliances to take a cash out, but when you're looking for a heating and air conditioning system, they can take a cash out, but you can't touch replacing a system for what First American can, because number one, we buy the equipment, we buy it in bulk, so we get a discount. Because we're providing the equipment to the contractor, there's no markup on it. So we can do it at a huge discount based on what retail rates would be. So you can take that cash out, but it's not usually a good deal. For us, it is. My husband's an HVAC tech. He can do it. He can buy the equipment at cost. So for us, it's not a bad deal. But unless you have somebody who can do it for you at no charge, it's not usually a good deal to take a cash out on that. So that would be the option if they wanted to go with something different.
Makes sense. Go ahead, Jim. Yeah.
I just wondered if there's a term limit on the coverage, or can you continue it for several years or as long as you want to?
Yeah, you can continue it. You can actually purchase 2 years up front if you want. We will go to 3 years. It's not on the brochure, and that you'd have to come to me for. But beyond that, they have the option to renew every year. They would get a renewal notice probably about 2 months prior to expiration, so they can continue to renew it.
And you don't have any sort of, I know you said there's no dollar limits, but there's no sort of overall deductible that applies to the coverage in general, right?
No, so we do have a $100 service fee, and that is per trade. So if you have several electrical issues that you report on a claim and several plumbing issues that you report on the same claim, those would be 2 service fees, one for the electrician and one for the plumber. If they're all electrical issues that are reported at the same time, then it's 1 service fee. So it's not per item, it's per trade that service fee is applied to.
Bobby, you have a question?
Sure do. Cheryl, I have a client that had bought a kitchen package, refrigerator, stove, microwave, dishwasher, all of that. And their question, when I talked about home warranty, their question was, well, what if my dishwasher goes out? It's an LG. I got it in that package. Is it going to be replaced with an LG, or do they have to accept whatever the warranty puts in it?
That's interesting because I never thought about that. So the warranty states that we do not match brand. We will match feature for feature. In that case, it may be a situation if we're not offering an LG, perhaps, I don't know, like mine was a Bosch that went out. They gave me a KitchenAid. I was very happy with that. But in that situation, Bob, it may be where they need to take the cash out and buy the unit on their own if we're not offering an LG.
Okay.
All righty. Any other questions before we wrap this up? No?
I would just like to jump in just for a second, Brooks, and say that some of the things that Cheryl's company is offering are invaluable. For instance, in our day, we made up both buyer and seller packets. And with the information that Cheryl's offering, you could use that, put those flyers into your buyer and seller packages, and it's an item that you would not forget to present when you're talking to these people about your service. To me, I think that's ultra important, and we should have it in there because this is, especially in this marketplace, these warranties are invaluable to us as far as suits go.
Yes. And the other thing is, if you have clients who have questions that you're not comfortable answering, I am always happy to talk to your clients directly. So, I mean, your job is to help people buy and sell real estate. My job is to know the warranties. So I'm always more than happy to explain that coverage to your buyers or your sellers. So you can either reach out to me and say, here's their contact information, give them a call, or you can give them my contact information and just ask them to reach out to me. But I'm always happy to speak with your clients.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Thank you, Cheryl, for getting on here today and sharing. I see
Kara's
Kara.
down here with a question, Brooks.
Yep,
Hi,
go.
Cheryl, would you be able to email to us a copy of this information so that we have it electronically as well as your contact information?
Absolutely. Brooks, can I send that to you? Maybe you could forward it out?
Yeah, absolutely. If you send
Perfect.
it to me, I'll get it out to everybody.
Awesome. Thanks. So I'll send a link. I'll send the PDF and also a link to that virtual business card. And obviously the email will have all of my contact information on it as well.
I just had one quick question. You had mentioned about the 25 brochures that you would send per month for us to include in mailings and things like that.
Excuse me. Yeah, the customizable marketing materials.
Right. So, but then I think somebody asked a question. The warranty can only be bought so many months after the thing. So, but you guys do national advertising, I think, that you sell these warranties.
Excuse me.
So, it's okay.
Sorry about that.
For a follow-up system after settlement for maybe somebody that didn't post a warranty, if you started getting those 25 brochures and you included those in your mailings to your clients, let's say over the first 6 months, if that's the drop-off period, one, it gives you a way to stay in touch with them, and two, it's offering them, a warranty if they start getting nervous about things at their home. So before something breaks.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate you adding that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's actually 60 days after closing that they can get
60
that.
days. Okay.
And then beyond that is when they would go into that bucket for the national plan where you see the national advertising.
Okay. That's all I had, Brooks.
Cool.
That was great.
Sounds good, Cheryl. Thank you again for getting on here and sharing with us. I will pass out, all that material that you mentioned, and I'll send out the recap as well. Hope everybody has a great week. If you have any questions for Cheryl, once I get the contact information out to you guys, reach out to her, and she responds really quickly. So.
Oh, thanks. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciated this opportunity.
She responds quickly on Facebook too.
Oh, well, not as quickly as normal. Sometimes I miss those messages.
Oh, because I know we've communicated with each other over the years quickly. When I needed your number, I just went to Messenger real quick. So.
Yep. I do keep a closer eye on that now than I used to, but I've gotten orders through Messenger as well.
Yep.
Alrighty, guys, we'll wrap this up. I hope everyone has a great week.
Yep. Thanks. You too.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.